Hello, everyone. Please introduce yourself in the chat. We'd like to know your name, where you're joining us from, your position, content area, grade levels that you teach. And if you're not in a school or district at the moment, please just tell us a little bit about yourself. While you're introducing yourself in the chat, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my co-presenter. We'd both like to thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. I'm Susan Seamer, and I work with various districts focused on school improvement efforts and universal design for learning. My co-presenter today is Scott Eldridge. Scott works with several districts as well, focused primarily on school improvement and positive behavior intervention supports, or PBIS. We are both happy that you chose this session for your learning today and are excited to introduce you to the Grandfriends Project. During this session, in addition to being inspired, you can expect to be able to use the information presented to create a similar project-based learning experience that connects your students with a first-person source for historical perspectives. Participants will be able to use this model to create a unique classroom-to-community connection and will be able to embed authentic learning into this or a similar project in your own classroom and community. Before we dive deeper into the session, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how Scott and I stumbled onto the project. Scott and I were attending a Franklin Local School District Board meeting where Scott was presenting a PBIS award to Duncan Falls Elementary School. Prior to that award presentation, a group of students from Duncan Falls and their art teacher, Mrs. Shackles, gave a presentation about the Grandfriends Project. Scott and I were so impressed with the teacher and her students that we talked not long after that meeting about finding a way to let other educators know and hopefully be inspired to create their own unique project. As you will see, this isn't your typical PBL project. It is actually embedded into what you're already teaching and spans multiple content areas and standards, depending on the kind of collaboration created between teachers. In this particular project, the collaboration combined Mrs. Shackles, the art teacher, with Miss Clark, the ELA teacher. As you start to think about this project in your own building, you may have teachers you already collaborate with, or as you develop a better understanding of the project, you may find yourself seeking out a new partner or partners to create a similar experience for your students. This project connected elementary students with residents of SharonBrooke Assisted Living facility. This facility is truly a special place. It has a warm atmosphere, beautiful grounds, a caring staff, and as you will see, very special residents. Thanks to the support of the facility director, Amy Twyman, residents were able to engage in a pen-pal relationship that offered Duncan Falls Elementary students an opportunity to learn not just about their grand friends, but to enhance their learning across multiple standards and content areas. Now Scott is going to introduce you to some wonderful people, old and young, who are going to tell you all about their involvement in the Grandfriends Project.
This project would not have been possible without the support of the building principal, Mrs. Pam Hartman. Mrs. Hartman is a firm believer in the shared leadership model, and when approached by Mrs. Shackles and Ms. Clark, gave her full support and assisted in making sure that the teachers had what they needed to make the project successful. Mrs. Shackles and Ms. Aubrey Clark are now going to explain how they came up with the project and how it ties into their curriculum.
So the Grandfriends Project came about during the end of my first year of teaching, which was the 2020-2021 school year. And I had been talking with our principal on my outgoing meeting for the end of the year and what my goals were for the following year. And that year in itself, I felt that there was just a major disconnect with not only teachers, but students, with the community. And so I was thinking back to my roots of what I grew up knowing, and that was I had spent a lot of time in assisted livings and nursing homes, not only because I had relatives that were in them, but I was fortunate enough to have a mother that ran them, and she brought us to those facilities just as she didn't think anything of it, but she knew deep down that it was going to benefit me and my siblings tremendously. And I'm glad that she did do that. So when I was thinking about where did I learn compassion and empathy, and to just be caring of all humans at whatever age they are, I thought about the assisted livings that I spent time in. And I felt that they can teach kids things that you can't teach in the standard classroom. So I thought about how could I tie the arts in with kind of like your traditional pen pal, which I feel like is sometimes like a lost activity. And so I really wanted to take that, but make it my own. So the idea of Grandfriends is like a grandparent, but like an older friend that the students have. And they not only write letters, but the key thing is that they are sending artwork to these individuals, because I feel that artwork can sometimes express things that we can't explain in words. And so using that as our key drive for the project it kind of set the students up for, oh, this isn't me doing a writing project. Oh, I'm making art for them. I can make what I want. And then the writing part of it, of communication, kind of just fell after, because they wanted to explain oh, I'm doing this in school and this is happening in my life. So naturally, everything just started to fall together. And the kids loved it, and it is what it is now, which is something I didn't expect to be. So the connection with the facility, now mine is a special case. Of course, I did work in this assisted living during my college years, and I volunteered there all since I was probably 7 years old. And so the connection that you build with a facility, most facilities, assisted livings, nursing homes can have special cases, but there is often an activities director or an activity manager of some sort. And most of the time when you walk in there, just any nearby one, and you say, could our school do this for your residents? Most facilities will welcome you with open arms, because there are those residents that sadly have nobody at all. They have no one to visit. They have no family left. And so when you're saying, oh, here, I would like to bring these students to be your residents' friends, they're all for it. So if you do have a connection with a family member who works in an area of that culture, well, then that's an easy way to get in. I've had multiple parents that have asked me, they work for facilities and they've heard about it, and they've said, how could I get kids to be Grandfriends with our facility? And so when the word spreads and they learn about what you're doing, it's very easy to get facilities to say, of course, you can come on in. So the unit process of it, when I was thinking about how I was going to run the program, I knew that seeing every student in our building, that it couldn't be a super time consuming thing. And I also would only have the group of kids that I had once a week. So I knew that I had to work it into what I was already planning for it to be successful. Instead of having all these extra things, and I understand as teachers, you're like, oh, it's another thing to take on. It's another thing to take on. But this is something that I was passionate about and I wanted to do. And so I thought about, how can I work this into what I'm already going to teach? And so that specific school year, I wanted to connect all of our projects with something that's relevant to the kids, and that being Disney. So when you look at Disney, all of the movies take place in different areas around the world. And in our education, you have to teach about different cultures and heritages and styles of artwork from all around the world. So while I was teaching these things and these different art periods and timeframes, I showed them how Disney movies used those same exact art styles in the movie. And so, for example, when we talked about China, we talked about, or just Asia in general, I showed them images from the movie Mulan. When I talked about the movie Aladdin, we looked at those very specific designs and patterns and used those in our artwork to represent that culture. And so finding something that you're going to tie it in with, and this could be in any subject. It could be social studies, it could be even math, it could be reading and writing. This is something that can be tied for everyone at any grade level, at any age, because you are simply building a relationship and a connection ultimately. So when you're thinking about, oh, this could be something that I want to put into my classroom, you simply find a key thing that you're going to do, like, you know, that you're going to teach, and how can it just connect to that? You don't have to build something that's brand new in order to have this program in your school.
Of course, the project helped with writing, really like letter writing, and helping them actually work on the format with like sincerely, and, you know, work on actually how to write a proper letter. Also with reading, having to read all the Grandfriends letters that they got. It helped with cursive reading, since a lot of the Grandfriends wrote in cursive and the kids didn't really see that much. So we got to practice actually reading the cursive too. The students were very engaged when it came to the Grandfriends. It really helped with the writing, because writing is a struggle sometimes with kids this young. So knowing they were able to practice with their writing, I also communicated with the Grandfriends, and they were so excited to go visit them and just actually have social interaction with adults, and that really helped them. All students were able to participate in this project. Some kids that did struggle with handwriting, they were able to have a scribe to help them write the letters. We did have to offer some accommodations when it comes to reading the letters for them. But as I mentioned before, having, you know, an art project with it, it wasn't just the writing and the reading. They were able to show them communication in a different way than just reading and writing.
Mrs. Shackles then talks to some of the kids about what they liked about the Grandfriends Project.
I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, Paisley. Could you tell me a little bit about what it was like having a grandfriend in the 3rd grade?
Well, it was really fun because we got to learn about them and we got to visit them a lot. And we like made art projects for stuff, and we had like, they gave us pins almost like every time we got a note from them.
Oh, and what kind of pins did they give you?
Well, I have like 13 of them.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
A Stitch one. I have a bunny and stuff like that. There's a lot of them.
So your teachers tied your artwork and projects in with what you were sending them, so then they kind of knew what to send to you and like what your interests were.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. What would you can you tell us a little bit about the grandfriend that you had?
Well, her name was Norma, and she loved Ohio State Buckeyes. She didn't have any animals, but she was really nice.
Oh, she sounds like a wonderful person. And what was the best part about having a grandfriend?
Probably getting to talk to them and write to them and stuff like that.
All right. Are you looking forward to having a grandfriend this year?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Paisley.
I'm Bristol, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, Bristol. Could you tell me a little bit about what it was like having a grandfriend last year?
It was fun and exciting.
Yeah. And what was your grandfriend's name?
Barb Bauer.
Barb Bowers. And what did you learn about Barb?
She had a cat.
She loved cats.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Did Barb have any special needs that you had to do when you were sending her letters?
I had to make my letters and read everything because she was colorblind and she couldn't see right away.
Oh, that's really awesome that you did that. So she was able to read it. And what would you say was the best part about having a grandfriend?
Being able to write letters to her and going to go and see her.
And you went and saw her. How many times did you go visit her?
Pretty sure
Twice. And would you love to be able to visit her again?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in the 4th grade, and my grandfriend's name is Orville, and he's 101 years old. He was an architect, and he was born in Italy.
That is pretty amazing. And so when you met Orville, were you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that you learned about having a grandfriend or that you really enjoyed about getting to have one?
We got to spend time with them, and we got to eat with them.
Oh, so you got to,
When we met them.
that's awesome that you got to go.
And we got to get sent letters. They sent us letters and we sent them letters.
You sent them letters. What else did you send them?
We sent them paintings and stuff.
Yeah.
And drawings.
And did your grandfriend send you anything really awesome back?
Yeah, he sent me these really cool drawings. And he sent these things where you can put on necklaces and you can wear them. It's for like Disney.
Oh, so he sent you Disney pens.
Yeah.
It sounds like he was an artist himself.
He was really good.
Yeah, he's really good. Did that inspire you at all to really strive to make your artwork better?
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there anything that you would say or like to tell anybody who does have a grandfriend? Or anything that you would like for them to know when they start the Grandfriend program?
You should draw these pictures and give them pictures of you drawing stuff, drawings.
Yeah. So make sure that they find out about you, right? And is there anything else that you would like to tell us about what the best part about having a grandfriend was?
We got to go, I had 2 things. We got to go meet him and he sent me drawings.
And he sent you drawings, all right. And are you excited to have get to see your grandfriend again this year? Yeah. Awesome.
I'm Reese, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, Reese. Could you tell me a little bit about what it was like having a grandfriend?
I mean, it was kind of fun. We got to do a lot of things with them. It was just we just learned about more people and how their lifestyle was and stuff.
And what about learning about new people was exciting for you?
Well, because we could learn about their life and just figure out how they were, and maybe they could teach us a few things that we did, or maybe they did something that we could try to do.
Excellent. And what about your grandfriend did you learn that you thought was really interesting?
I mean, he said he always had a farm. He had like this big farm all the time and stuff. And
Yeah, and that's really great, especially getting to know about other people and how they, from a young age, that they went after their dreams. Is there anything in particular that you would say was the best part about having a grandfriend?
I mean, we got to like do a lot of things with them. The best thing probably was we got to become friends with them and
Yes.
talk with them and stuff.
All right, Racy, and are you looking forward to having a grandfriend this year?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
We talked with SharonBrooke Director Amy Twyman and some of the Grandfriends about what they enjoyed and learned from the project.
I was pleased to see, of course, the interest that they had. And then I was comparing it with experiences that I had when I was their age, at which time I looked at the adults, the teachers, and they were a mile away. I think this brings them a little closer to reality of that we're really close to them and would like to help them. And probably at a stage, if this is not happening, they don't realize that quite as much. They like the teacher, but they're not quite in touch with what the teacher is trying to do for them. And that's what I felt was the most important part of the meeting and what I gathered from the children as I talked.
Great. Thank you.
I thought that would help them achieve maybe what they want to learn and maybe to ask questions where they before didn't have the feeling that they were really able to ask such questions. And, that's what I got from it.
All the time. And she liked art and she would ask me questions and tell me what she liked. She liked math and she liked to draw, and she would ask me questions, you know, how I was and how many was in my family and tell me how many brothers and sisters she had. It was very interesting information that she kept asking me. And every time she'd always send me pictures of some things that she drew and pictures. It was very interesting to know, you know, what she liked and what she disliked. And
Nice.
Pretty much like Mary, my little girl, she lived on a farm, I think is where she lives. And so she would tell me all about her animals and her goats. And of course, I'm an animal person, so I have cats and she had cats, and we talked about all of that. And then I said to her one time, I said, now, when you go back to class, what are you going to start? And she said, now they're third graders. And she said, we'll start fractions. And that boggled my mind because I thought fractions didn't start, you know, when I was in that grade at that time, and how the difference in the curriculum and everything is today. And they have, she loves school. She likes to be in her teachers and, you know, and everything. But Amy said one time she told Madison, she said, I'm having grandfriends withdrawal because I haven't talked to her or seen her for a while, you know. So it's a nice thing to have. And not with me not having children, it's really special.
Well, thank you.
a lot of children, may not have grandparents and things. And when you're talking a 9-year-old communicating with a 101-year-old, they get to see this big difference that they aren't so different, that they all have same interest. And a lot of times, when you're 9 years old, you think a 30-year-old is so old. So I think, when they're, have grandfriends that are, like I said, Orville here is 101, going to be 102 in a month. And, we have Mary and they're older, and it just was such a wonderful connection to let them see that someone that old is not that different from them. We had a party here. We called it, it was an Alice in Wonderland party. And all the staff here at SharonBrooke, we all dressed up and I have wonderful pictures and things. And I know Orville took a lot. But we had all the grandfriends up, and we told them, everybody has one birthday, but in Alice in Wonderland, there's 364 unbirthdays. So we had an unbirthday party, and it let them see that just because you're 101 don't mean you can't party, right, Orville?
They're having a good time.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed that skating.
Oh, yeah.
They went over to the skating rink.
Yeah.
There,
And we
ice
gotta,
skating.
you gotta meet your grandfriends
And
twice.
we had pizza.
Yeah. So the first time they got to meet their grandfriends, the grandfriends gave them all $5 to go skating.
Mhm.
So they got to go next door, and they went ice skating. And then they came over here to tell them about it and got to meet them. And they threw a pizza. All the
party.
grandfriends threw a pizza party for the
Mhm.
all the students. And that was an exciting time because that was the first time they actually got to meet them in person. And I think that's a key to this program is to be able to get to meet the grandfriends in person, because you can have a pen pal, but it's extra special when you can make that connection and actually get to sit and meet them in person. I think that was huge for all of you, right?
They were really neat. They cleaned up our plates and our cups and stuff and cleaned everything off of the table and put it in the trash for us. Really looked after us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in the beginning of the program,
Had her
Mrs. Shackles, she sent all of the residents sheets. It was called All About Me. And it has a picture of the student and everything about the student. And then the resident, they all did these back to the students. So so to get to introduce themselves, they got to develop this sheet, and it was wonderful because it really give them a base. They both what they liked, when their birthdays were, they had the same birthday month, and just kind of what their similarities were, kind of built that foundation for that relationship. And you still have them.
I kept all of my
I wish I had
information. I had.
Yeah, and this year, we're excited because I know in talking to Mrs. Shackles, instead of having all third graders, we're actually going to have kids from each grade. So she's developed a program where we'll get like 3 kids from kindergarten, 3 kids. So I think that will be really interesting to see how this year plays out, because I think, from kindergarten, I believe, through 5th grade, we'll be getting all ages of kids get to come visit. I mean, we did have a few residents that were grandfriends that passed away. So that's something, a lot of times people are like, how will you handle that? And that was a very hard thing. So, instead of focusing on that person passed away, we actually had several residents that jumped right in and became a new grandfriend to that child. And, we just said, that grandfriend has gone home. And that they now have a new grand friend. So we were able to keep it still a positive thing. So I think in developing the program, if you were in other, locations, that is something that you definitely need to think about, because it wasn't something right in the beginning that we thought about until we had to.
Right.
And it stayed very positive. We didn't have any heartbreaks throughout the program. And we had some wonderful residents that were so excited to be able to be part of it, because they, you only have so many kids.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting this year to see how all the different ages of the kids.
Oh, yeah, like we're super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of folks at Duncan Falls that have heard about the program that want to be involved too. So that's great.
And it is, and it's funny because a lot of the children that are in this class, they got, will still be in contact with their grand friends.
So we're still going to be in contact with the ones we have.
Yeah, you can still talk, with the ones that you have, but you may have a new grand friend to add to that. So you'll have a whole family of grand
They have a
friends.
bunch of them, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, so, but they still have the addresses. We shared, Mrs. Shackle shared the addresses of all of the residents with the families before they left for the summer.
Oh, how nice.
So the kids they're still getting letters and things.
That's good.
Great.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
said I wrote to her, and she wrote back to me, so, she's, we gotta keep in touch. I'd like to see her grow up.
My young man, I did some sketching for him of what we got around here and what the community's like. And he came back with a sketch. That was pretty neat, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It sort of stimulates them to think and gee, what are these old folks here? They're maybe not so bad after all. That's the impression I got. And I think that makes you mature. And, I think it's good for them, don't you, Barb?
Oh, it's wonderful for them. And there again, it's so different talking to these children today because they don't talk like young children.
Look at it as a smartphone.
That's what I'm saying. They know a smartphone. They know, I wish I had one in my room because I go to open a medicine bottle or an envelope or something and, they're there, they could do it in 2 seconds. They know how to do the phone and everything.
And Barb, tell her you're colorblind, and Bristol found that out, and her grand friend only writes to her in red and green so that she can read the letters because she's colorblind.
And I'm blind in one eye.
Yeah.
So it's now I have a letter here that I am trying to decipher, and it takes me a while sometimes, but I'll get it answered. And but she was all excited about showing her goats at the fair, so I don't know if she got to or not. So,
But even the compassion that child learned that Barb was colorblind, and Barb had mentioned, I can only read in red and green. So she writes all of her letters in that. So it's just, picking up on that and learning that,
Right.
to do something extra because, somewhat it helps them. So I feel like it has taught them at the end of the year a lot of, compassion, empathy that, they might not have had to experience.
That's so true. I think in school, they're in their own little pods. Unless you do a project like this, they don't get the same experience of going outside of that.
yeah. But there again, she was very concerned and everything, and always jumped up if I needed anything, or and they all did the same thing. But but she's just a special little person, and I know that these children are going to be good kids.
We are sure that a lot of you may want more details and additional information about the project before creating your own. This PowerPoint with all of the contact information will be found in a digital folder, and we're going to put that link into the chat so you can access that. Just remember, as the teachers talked about it, this isn't a standalone separate lesson plan. It truly is an extension of what you're already doing. It allows you to embed a project-based learning element into any or all of your content standards seamlessly. So please feel free to reach out to the principal and the teachers. They are happy and ready to share their experience and their expertise. So now we'd like to ask you to please share some of your ideas, some of your thoughts into the chat. As you're thinking about creating a similar learning experience for your students, do you have a desire to create a unique community connection? Maybe you're thinking about collaborating with a partner in your building that you can create a project with. Or maybe you know of someone who's looking for a special project-based learning for their building or classroom. Or just tell us what was inspiring about the project to you. As you put those thoughts into the chat, Scott's going to share a few more pictures from this amazing project. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. We hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.